Have you stopped writing? If so, how long has it been? A few days? A week? A month? Longer? Well, a few months ago, I went through a spell where I didn't write anything at all. No articles, no tweets, no notes, just nothing. But despite being stuck in an Olympic gold medal level rut, in the last few weeks I've written 13 Medium articles. I've written 12 YouTube scripts. I've even written an entire screenplay, just busting it out in coffee shops. Pause. And I did all of this in less than 18 days. In this video, I'm going to share how I got out of my really bad writing rut and how you can too in 5 simple steps. You need to make sure you don't skip over the third step because it's so counterintuitive, but arguably the most important step in this entire list. So with that out the way, let's get into it. Firstly, I need to give you a bit of context. So over Christmas and New Year, I went back to Scotland to see my family. But before going, I intended to write a lot of stuff while I was there. After all, my family lives in the middle of nowhere where there's really nothing to do other than walk around in the countryside or just watch TV. The problem is, as soon as I got there, I fell into the old subconscious habits that I got used to when I used to live there. Staying up late playing Xbox, going round to my granddad's house and eating way too much cake, going for really long walks in the countryside and just losing track of time. Basically, I didn't make any time for writing because I was too busy doing things that I was just used to doing there. So the first step to getting out of your writing rut is changing your environment. Now, let me be clear, this doesn't mean you have to disown your family, move all the way across the world and go monk mode. No, I'm not saying you have to do that. Changing your environment can be as simple as replacing writing in your bedroom with writing in your local library or coffee shop. And this is exactly what happened to me. After I came back from Scotland, I got really sick for 2 weeks. Needless to say, during those 2 weeks, I didn't do any writing because I couldn't even get out of bed. But as soon as I got better, I made a point of putting myself in a different environment. And guess what? As soon as I was there, I started writing again, and it was effortless. Instead of staying in my bedroom feeling sorry for myself, I went to the coffee shop that I'm used to writing in, and as soon as I got back in that familiar environment, it just made sense to write again. As soon as I got my latte and opened my laptop, words just magically started appearing on the screen. This is how I was able to write a screenplay in just 9 days. Like, there's no way I could have done that if I just decided to stay in my room. Like, I had to actually change my environment to go to a different place for this screenplay to actually exist. There's no way I could have written it if I just stayed in my bedroom. At least, there's no way I could have written it in 9 days. No, not a chance. So if you want to start writing again, first, change your environment. The second step to getting you back on the writing running track involves answering a simple question. Do you like what you're writing? I know, I get it. This might seem like an obvious question, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't actually like the stuff they write. Before I went back to Scotland for Christmas, I was already in a rut. I wasn't happy with the articles I was producing on Medium, and I was just generally unsatisfied with the quality of work I was producing. But because my work on Medium primarily pays the bills, I just kept doing it. It wasn't until I took a long break from writing content on Medium that it became clear what I wanted to actually write about. Literally, after I got better from my illness, it was like I got struck with a creative lightning bolt. Because as soon as the idea for this potential screenplay came into my mind, I became like a man possessed. How else could I write the first draft in 9 days? That wouldn't be possible. And for context, I had the idea for this story 6 months ago, but it took ages for it to resurface and for me to actually rekindle the passion to write about it. 9 days later, the story was fleshed out and the first draft was finished, like magic. I was writing between like 10 to 30 pages every day and I wasn't experiencing any resistance whatsoever. Why? Because it was something I wanted to write. And more importantly, I loved writing it. It was fun. So take this step seriously. Ask yourself if you're actually enjoying what you're writing right now, or if you're just doing it for a result. If you weren't enjoying what you were writing before ending up in this rut, it's no wonder you're struggling to get out of it. Now, as promised, a very, very counterintuitive piece of advice. Up to this point, you've changed your environment, you've also done some introspection and figured out what you want to be writing. Now we need to do something totally unexpected. You need to embrace your rut. Look, I know this sounds weird, but just let me explain. Okay, so the world as we know it is controlled by dualities. There can't be a hot without a cold. There can't be a right without a left. There can't be a good without a bad. Love without hate, success without failure. You get the point. These are dualities. And if you look at the world around you, you'll see that dualities are everywhere, including your writing rut. So, what does this mean, though? Essentially, it means you can't experience a surge of writing productivity without also experiencing these periods of inactivity and helplessness. They are one and the same thing. Because although all dualities may seem separate, they're actually all the same thing. Think about it. When have you ever seen someone experience something like success in a linear fashion with no hiccups, no drawbacks, no failures, just a streamlined, straight line to success? It doesn't happen. This is not how the world works. In reality, the process of success involves making an amazing amount of mistakes. It involves immense rises and cataclysmic falls over and over again. It's like you're riding a wave. So what does this mean for you and your writing? Simply put, your writing rut is part of the process that will make your writing fun again. I know it doesn't seem like it when you're in the middle of this thing, but it's the truth. If you could have one without the other, neither would exist. You can't have a rut without its opposite condition of being productive, in the same way as you can't have the condition of success without failure. Does that make sense? To make this even clearer for you, just look at your own life. How often have you had times where everything you touch just seemed to turn to gold? It doesn't just have to be with your writing, it can even be in mundane things. I'm confident that during your lifetime, you've had spells where it felt like everything was just going your way, everything was falling into place, everything was effortless, everything was easy. And yet at the same time, I can also confidently say that you've had times where the opposite was happening, where everything felt hard, everything was sluggish, everything was just resisting you at every turn. This is not an accident, this is how the process of life unfolds. One phase comes in and another takes its place, over and over again until you die. Whatever the case may be, your life has never been the same experience, has it? Just like George Harrison says, all things must pass away. Whether good or bad, all things will eventually pass, including your writing rut. And this is how you need to start looking at it. It's not something you're going to be trapped in forever. It doesn't spell the end of your writing career. It's simply an inseparable part of the writing experience. Now that we've got all the spiritual stuff out of the way, let's now discuss something more practical. If you haven't written anything in a while, have you ever considered writing something new? If not, do it. Because think about it. What is writing? Is writing just novels? No. Is writing just social media posts? No. Is writing just songs? No. Writing is everything. And because I want to be a writer, why would I confine myself to just one tiny aspect of it? That doesn't make sense. By writing articles, social media content, songs, poetry, instruction manuals, it doesn't matter. I am improving at the craft of becoming a writer. If you do this, if you dedicate your life to the path of becoming a writer, you will become one of the greatest writers in the history of the universe, especially if you write different things. Why? Because by choosing to write different things and challenging yourself, you're actively exposing yourself to new experiences and different perspectives, which are in turn unlocking your ability to express yourself in the art form. By writing songs, you will get better at writing social media content. By writing poems, you will become better at writing novels and in-depth stories. By writing stories like screenplays or musicals, you will get better at writing sales copy and mastering the art of marketing. This is a critical thing to understand. If you're in a rut right now, it's because you're lacking inspiration. For you to drag yourself out of it, you need a new stimulus. You have to just let your curiosity guide you. Because if you do this, you won't experience the resistance you're experiencing right now towards writing. The reason you don't want to write anything is because you're not inspired by the things you're writing. If you allow your curiosity to take you over and drag you to where it wants to go, you will love writing again. If that means writing songs, write songs. If that means writing plays, write plays. If that means writing sales copy, write sales copy. What the thing is doesn't actually matter. All that matters is you allow inspiration to come back into your life. And after that, writing just becomes easy. Because it stops feeling like a chore and becomes a game again. And when writing feels like a game, you can't help but want to play. This is the precise way I got out of my rut. I didn't keep forcing myself to write things I was bored of. Instead, I wrote something completely different, which for me was a screenplay. And by doing that, I found my zest for writing again. If I'd never written my screenplay, this video probably wouldn't exist, because they're all connected. This is the power of exposing yourself to new things and challenging yourself as a writer. With that said, in order for you to write the best things possible, it's imperative that you're able to get eyeballs on your work. If you want to learn how to do that, click the first link in the description and sign up for my free magnetic writing guide. I think it'll really help you out. Lastly, we need to dive deeper into what writing actually is. I briefly touched on this in the last point, but I think it needs more of an explanation. To begin with, just ask yourself this. What is writing? I've already given you the answer, but I'll give it to you again in a more poetic way. Writing is a form of infinite expression. All of the music that was ever played was once written. Every film that's ever been seen was first written. Every story, every article, every social media post, every advertisement designed to take your money. These are all forms of expression, and they're all expressed through writing. You need to understand that barely any writers know what writing actually is. Most of them just see it as a means to an end. They write to get money. They write to get famous. They write to get sex. They write to get status. They all do it just to get something, not for the sake of pure universal expression. By understanding this, you will have an edge over the writers who only abuse this art form for their own selfish needs. Think about it this way. Paul McCartney and John Lennon were not amazing songwriters because they only wanted sex and money. They were incredible songwriters because they were obsessed with artistic expression and loved music. Sure, they got all the other stuff. They had a lot of money. They had a lot of sex. They got very famous. But that was never the end goal. And besides, these were all just byproducts of their obsession with expression. Likewise, Stephen King may have a net worth of over $500 million. But that isn't the thing that's driving him. For him, the money was simply a byproduct of his love for storytelling. This is what writing actually is. It's not a means to an end. It is the end in itself. By only using writing as a tool to get the things your ego wants, you will fail. Not because you won't get the things your ego wants. You probably will. But because those weren't the things you actually wanted. You'll realize that you used the immense power of writing to get something that you didn't even want in the first place. You were using the immense power of writing for the wrong reasons. However, If you instead used writing as a form of universal expression to expand consciousness, you'll still get all those material things. You just won't care about them. Why? Because the goal behind your writing is serving something greater. That's what the Beatles were doing throughout their entire careers. They weren't just creating things to enrich themselves. Their creations were expanding consciousness, whether they knew it or not. The same goes for any other writer who's had a truly immense impact on their readers. Once you understand this truth about writing, you will have no problem getting out of your writing rut. I've gone on long enough. Thank you very much for watching. Click the first link in the description to get my free magnetic writing guide delivered straight to your inbox. And if you like this, I think you'll like this next video where I discuss how Quentin Tarantino is able to make old ideas feel new. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.